This lecture is part of a Canadian Bioinformatics Workshop and is made available under the Creative Commons. Welcome to Module 1, Introduction to Pathway and Network Analysis of Gene Lists, as part of the Pathway and Network Analysis of Omics Data Workshop. In Module 1, I'm going to provide you a brief introduction to pathway and network analysis and some background information about gene lists and pathways that are going to be required for the rest of the workshop. So the basis of this workshop is helping people interpret gene lists. And the general idea is that you perform some kind of experiment where you get thousands of genes that result, and then you want to know how to interpret those. Typically, any kind of genome scale analysis or omics, such as genomics, proteomics, RNA-seq, transcriptomics, etc., produces lots of information like this. And one of the main ways that people interpret this data is by trying to understand some mechanistic story that pulls these things together. So if we want to know what's interesting about the thousands of genes that were resulted from our transcriptomics experiment, we might ask if they are enriched in known pathways, complexes, or functions. So this picture represents a transcriptomics experiment, and once you have collected the raw data, you might rank or cluster it to generate a gene list. And then in this course, we want to compare that gene list to prior knowledge about cellular processes using various analysis tools, and ideally find some new interesting discovery. Pathway and network analysis saves time compared to the traditional approach. If you had hundreds or thousands of genes and you wanted to interpret them manually, you'd have to look each one up, understand its function, and understand the relationship of the functions of all the genes on your list to try and figure out if there were particular mechanisms that were in common and that might be interesting to highlight. And so this approach traditionally is very time-consuming. Pathway and network analysis helps gain mechanistic insight into omics data in a more automated way. For instance, we could identify a master regulator, drug targets, or characterizing pathways that are active in a sample. And any type of analysis that involves pathway or network information is a type of pathway or network analysis. Pathway and network analysis is most commonly applied to help interpret lists of genes, and the most popular type is pathway enrichment analysis, but there are many others that are useful, and we'll be covering pathway enrichment analysis and a number of others as part of this workshop. The benefits of pathway analysis compared to analyzing information at the transcript or protein level one by one is that considering the data in the context of pathways usually makes it easier to interpret because we're working with familiar concepts like the cell cycle. We identify possible causal mechanisms, which is useful, especially if we're interested in therapeutically targeting those mechanisms. We can use pathway and network analysis to predict new roles for genes that we don't know the function of. And pathway and network analysis helps improve statistical power, which we'll cover more in the workshop, and it might also lead to more reproducible results. For instance, if we do multiple experiments on multiple samples, we might get different gene expression profiles or signatures for each sample or condition, but they might all affect the same pathways, and so looking at the level of genes, we might not see exact replication of the signatures across conditions, but looking at the level of pathways, we might see replication of pathways across the conditions. And pathway and network analysis also facilitates integration of multiple data types in a multi-omics approach. I mentioned pathway and network analysis. What are pathways and how are they different from networks? Pathways are usually detailed, high-confidence models of a biological process, usually formed with steps. We might have biochemical reactions as part of the pathway. Usually the models are developed based on many years of study and many publications. So for instance, the EGF receptor pathway or metabolism are examples. Networks, on the other hand, are sets of relationships between genes of different types. For instance, we could have genes activating each other or binding each other, and they represent a more simplified view of cellular logic. Frequently they're noisier, and they often come from large-scale genome-wide assays like co-expression relationships for transcriptomics or large-scale protein interaction screens. There are many types of pathway network analysis, for instance, enrichment of fixed gene sets. So this could answer the question of what biological processes are altered in my sample. De novo subnetwork construction and clustering usually answers questions like what pathways are altered in this sample, and it's not limited to known pathways. It could also identify new pathways. It can also be used to, for instance, identify clinically relevant tumor subtypes. And pathway-based modeling is more advanced and can help identify if there are particular molecules that are important or critical in a pathway given the data that you've collected. The general pathway analysis workflow is summarized here. So first we collect some genomics data, for instance, gene expression data. This workshop uses gene expression data extensively, although the concepts that we'll cover are applicable to other types of genomics data. But transcriptomics data or gene expression data is a very good example type of data to cover for this workshop because it's popular and it's highly informative frequently. So once we've collected our genomics data, we normalize and score it. For instance, we can compute differential expression between two conditions, and this generates some kind of gene list. And then we want to learn about the underlying mechanism that this gene list might be telling us about using pathway network analysis. And to break this box out a little bit more, pathway network analysis usually starts by running analyses and visualization methods that help us identify interesting pathways and networks. And once we've found one that's interesting, we can focus in on it to better understand molecular mechanism and eventually develop a publication quality model. So this workflow, the simplified workflow that I just showed you, is actually more complicated. We can use that workflow to analyze many different types of data, shown in blue at the top. This middle level shows us how we might process the data. Ultimately, all of these processing steps result in a gene list that we can interpret using pathway analysis or network analysis. And here's the mechanistic drill down box. So we'll be going over these in more detail in the workshop and some more detail in the coming slides. So where did gene lists come from? There are many types of genomics data types, and there are many ways to get gene lists from these data types, and the gene lists have different meanings. For instance, molecular profiling, like measuring all the mRNA transcripts or protein levels in a sample, can help us identify molecules that are important for our sample, and this generates a gene list. We might also get some quantification of these, which generates a gene list plus the quantification values. And we can also rank, if we have many samples, we can rank and cluster them using biostatistical methods that generate a ranking or a clustering, and these can also generate gene lists, like the set of genes that are associated with a cluster. Another type of omics data is interactomics. For instance, we can measure protein interactions, microRNA targets, transcription factor binding sites, and frequently these interaction measuring methods provide lists of genes that are targeted by a protein or a microRNA or a transcription factor. A genetic screen, like a CRISPR screen, can also provide a list of genes, and genome-wide association studies can identify genes that are linked to SNPs that are associated with a phenotype of interest. And each of these methods generates a gene list, but the gene lists frequently mean different things based on the methods. And you can think of other examples that might be relevant to your own work. So as I mentioned, gene lists have a meaning, and you have to understand that meaning to understand how to interpret them. So frequently, a gene list might relate to a biological system where we then want to understand protein complexes, pathways, or physical interactions that are part of that biological system. A particular screen might identify a list of genes that's related to a gene function or a molecular function, like protein kinases. It could identify a list of genes that's related to a similar cell or tissue location, or a chromosomal location. So clearly these lists of genes have very different meanings. Again, we need to understand that meaning to understand how to interpret the gene list. Okay, so the first part of this larger, more detailed workflow is this blue layer here, which covers many different types of omics data that can be converted into gene lists. We talked about gene expression data and protein expression data. Those are very similar. DNA methylation is similar, but we might need to score methylation of gene promoters to get a gene list or link methylation groups to genes. Similarly, microRNAs, if we measure their expression, we have to link them to other genes using known or predicted targets. Protein binding to DNA or RNA, for instance with chromatin immunoprecipitation, again we have to identify target genes because we might identify a region of the genome that is bound by a protein of interest, but that might not be a gene. It might be near a gene or it could be quite far from a gene, so additional work is required to identify target genes. Mapping protein interactions directly identifies a set of genes that interacts with the bait protein, for instance, and looking at mutations from whole genome sequencing or exome sequencing identifies a set of variants which can also be linked to genes through various different means. So before analysis, when we have data from any one of these methods, we need to be aware that we need to normalize, do a proper background adjustment and proper quality control to avoid giving too much noise to the pathway analysis methods. Any kind of statistics that will increase signal and reduce noise is important. We need to consider how many genes result from this. We don't want to generate a single list filled with the entire genome. It needs to be more specific. And we also need to make sure that the gene identifiers are compatible with the software that we're using, and we'll talk about that more later. In general, these days, many genomics data types are handled by core facilities, and those facilities typically have standard workflows that they apply to the data, and they give you the result, which can then be directly input into pathway network analyses. Sometimes people run their own analyses in their lab. Frequently, established workflows are available for these too, and occasionally there's new genomics data types, and the workflows might not be established, and then you need to know something about how those workflows work or what the latest is in that area to figure out how to apply those workflows to your data. But again, the general way of working with this data is that, especially for something like gene expression data, typically those are measured by a core facility, and you'll just get the result as a gene list. Okay, so these types of established methods process the raw data and convert it into a gene list using various different strategies. Okay, once you have a gene list, hopefully what was part of the experimental design is asking the question of what you want to accomplish with this gene list. For instance, you might want to summarize biological processes or other aspects of gene function. You might want to compare two different samples or two different types of samples. You might want to identify a controller for a process like a transcription factor that you could then overexpress or knock out to test its causal nature. You could find new pathways or new pathway members and discover new aspects of gene function. You can correlate a disease or a phenotype with information from your gene list, or you can find a drug that targets genes in your list. Okay, so the green boxes here relate to pathway and network analysis. Pathway is on the left and networks on the right.